What if you could slow time without ever touching a clock? Imagine waking up clear mind, energized body, no brain fog, no joint stiffness. You feel alive, sharp, calm, focused, and the best part, you're aging. But you're aging in reverse. Sounds like sci-fi. It's not. It's science. Aging isn't just about wrinkles or birthdays. It's about how fast your cells break down and how well your brain bounces back. The truth is, we all age. But how we age, that's a choice. So let's flip the script. Let's talk about 5 powerful, research-backed habits that don't just slow aging, they whisper to your biology, let's stay younger, longer. Asterisk, the process of aging isn't just about counting birthdays. It's about understanding what's happening beneath the surface inside your brain, your hormones, your cells, and learning how to influence those systems to maintain vitality over time. One of the most direct and impactful ways to do that is deceptively simple. Get sunlight in your eyes within the first 30 minutes of waking. This single act can trigger a biological chain reaction that affects nearly every system of the body. The retina contains specialized neurons, intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion, cells that respond specifically to sunlight. When these cells are activated, they send a signal directly to the brain's master clock, located in the nucleus of the hypothalamus. This master clock is responsible for regulating your circadian rhythm, the internal 24-hour cycle that governs sleep, hormone release, metabolism, and even mood. When you anchor your circadian rhythm to natural light, especially early in the day, you're essentially giving your brain and body a schedule, a sense of when that aligns with how humans evolved to function. This matters immensely because our physiology thrives on rhythm. Without it, we suffer. Cortisol, a hormone often mischaracterized solely as a stress chemical, actually plays a crucial role in waking us up and preparing us for alertness, focus, and movement. But it needs to spike early, ideally within the first hour of waking. When morning sunlight hits the retina, it catalyzes this cortisol pulse, ensuring that energy is distributed properly throughout the body and that the rise and fall of your alertness is timed optimally throughout the day. Get that morning light and your cortisol levels peak at the right time. Miss it and you delay that rhythm, creating misalignments that impair sleep, cognitive clarity, and even immune function. And this isn't theory, it's deeply grounded in neuroscience and endocrinology. Studies show that individuals exposed too early morning light tend to fall asleep more easily at night, have more stable moods, and experience greater metabolic health. They even have reduced levels of depression and anxiety. That's not coincidence. It's biology responding to its most ancient cue, the sun. What's more compelling is how this light exposure affects dopamine, one of the most important neuromodulators for motivation, mood, and drive. Dopamine neurons in areas like the substantia nigra and the ventral tegmental area are indirectly modulated by light through retinal signaling pathways. When your eyes take in morning light, dopamine levels rise, enhancing your ability to engage with life, pursue goals, and experience pleasure from effort. That's the core of what makes us feel alive, not just going through the motions, but feeling pulled forward by purpose and energy. So yes, morning sunlight isn't just about sleep. It's about resetting your entire mental and physical state. Think of your body like a symphony. Every instrument, your organs, your hormones, your neurotransmitters, needs to follow the same conductor. Morning light is that conductor. It tells the pineal gland when to hold back melatonin, the sleep hormone, and when to allow it to rise again in the evening. Without that cue, melatonin drifts. You may start to feel sleepy at random times. You might wake in the middle of the night, or struggle to fall asleep even when you're exhausted. This irregularity is one of the silent accelerants of aging, because sleep isn't just a pause, the period when the brain flushes out metabolic waste, consolidates memory, balances neurotransmitters, and repairs cellular damage. Poor sleep, over time, degrades not only mental sharpness, but also cardiovascular health, insulin sensitivity, and immune resilience. And we haven't even touched on the effect of morning light on temperature regulation, which also plays a massive role in maintaining hormonal balance. Your core body temperature rises in response to that first light signal. This increase promotes wakefulness and sets the countdown clock for melatonin release about 12 to 14 hours later. It's a closed-loop. Light in the morning helps you fall asleep at night. Ignore this mechanism, and it starts to drift out of sync, creating what's often referred to as social jet lag. You're tired when you should be alert, wired when you should be winding down. Over time, this misalignment doesn't just steal your energy. It alters gene expression patterns, impacts gut microbiota, increases systemic inflammation, and shortens telomeres, those protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes that are tightly linked to lifespan. So what does this mean practically? It means that the act of walking outside in the early part of the day before the sun climbs too high, ideally without sunglasses, and definitely without a pane of glass between you and the light, becomes a cornerstone habit for health. Even on a cloudy day, the lux levels, or light intensity, are exponentially higher than indoor lighting. You might get 500 lux indoors under bright lights, but outdoors, even in overcast conditions, you're easily exposed to 10,000 lux, or more. That difference is not trivial. It's the difference between a weak whisper and a powerful signal. Your biology listens to power. And sunlight in the morning is one of the most powerful non-pharmacological signals available to you. And let's not underestimate how this daily ritual grounds you psychologically. Waking up, stepping outside, and letting your body feel the environment, cool air, warm rays, maybe a breeze imprints, a rhythm of it's a biological statement. I'm awake, I'm here, and I'm participating in life. This act becomes a behavioral anchor, a mental prime. It tells your brain, today matters. You don't have to journal, meditate, or read a dozen affirmations. Just get outside. Let the light in. Let your nervous system calibrate. Aging is often misunderstood as simply getting older. But from a neuroscience perspective, it's the accumulation of small misalignments, hormones released at the wrong times, sleep cycles thrown off by artificial light, cortisol rising too late, dopamine systems becoming desensitized. Over weeks and years, these micro-errors compound. And yet, the solution begins with a simple, free, accessible act that aligns us with how our bodies were designed to function. Morning sunlight is not a trick. It's not a hack. It's a fundamental part of your biological operating system. Miss it, and the entire cascade of hormonal, neurological, and psychological processes begins out of tune. Embrace it, and you recalibrate your system to operate at its most youthful setting. This is where the reversal of aging begins, not in a bottle or a lab, but in the quiet morning moments when light touches your eyes and your biology says, let's begin again. Sleep is not a luxury. It's not something we earn after we've pushed ourselves to the edge. It's a biological imperative and active, dynamic process that the body uses to repair, reset, and prepare for tomorrow. Every single organ system, every tissue in the body, every cell, and every circuit in the brain is affected by the quality and timing of your sleep. And yet, most people treat it like an afterthought. But if you care about slowing age, you care about maintaining cognitive function, hormonal balance, emotional stability, and metabolic health, then sleep needs to be the most fiercely protected time of your day. What happens when you sleep is nothing short of a biological miracle. During deep, slow-wave sleep, especially in the early part of the night, your brain activates what's known as the glymphatic system. This is your brain's waste clearance mechanism. Cerebrospinal fluid is pulsed through the brain's interstitial spaces, flushing out metabolites and neurotoxins that have accumulated during waking hours. One of the primary targets of this system is beta-amyloid, the same protein that builds up in neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. When you don't get enough deep sleep, especially over time, these toxins accumulate and start to interfere with cognition, memory, and emotional regulation. But when you do get sufficient high-quality sleep, your brain quite literally washes itself clean. Think of it as a nightly rinse cycle for your neural networks. But the impact of sleep doesn't stop at the brain. Growth hormone, essential molecule for tissue repair, fat metabolism, and muscle maintenance, is primarily released during sleep. This hormone is critical not just for recovery, but for maintaining youthfulness at the cellular level. It helps preserve lean mass, regulate insulin sensitivity, and even strengthen bones. The decline in growth hormone with age is well documented, but getting deep, uninterrupted sleep can help maintain its natural rhythms. You're not just resting, you're rebuilding. You're reversing the biological wear and tear that accumulates. During the day, from a neurological standpoint, sleep is also when memory consolidation occurs. Short-term memories formed throughout the day are replayed, sorted, and encoded into long-term storage. Synaptic pruning happens. Connections that are unnecessary or inefficient are trimmed away, while meaningful, high-value circuits are reinforced. This is what allows learning to stick. This is how insight is built. You go to sleep uncertain, and you wake up clear. That's not magic. That's neuroplasticity, operating in silence while you're unconscious. Hormonal regulation is deeply tied to sleep as well. Melatonin, which rises in the evening to initiate sleep, is just the tip of the iceberg. Sleep helps synchronize a whole constellation of hormones, including cortisol, leptin, ghrelin, insulin, and sex hormones like testosterone and estrogen. These hormones govern appetite, stress response, blood sugar regulation, libido, and emotional balance. Disrupt sleep, and you disrupt this entire endocrine orchestra. And this isn't just about how you feel the next day. Chronic sleep disruption leads to systemic inflammation, accelerated cellular aging, and an increased risk for nearly every age-related disease, cardiovascular issues, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, depression, and more. It's not a correlation, it's causation. The data is overwhelming. People often ask, what's the one thing I can do to age more slowly? The answer is, protect your sleep with the same intensity you'd protect your most valuable possession, because that's exactly what it is. Sleep is the foundation upon which every other positive behavior is built. You can exercise perfectly, eat clean, meditate daily, but if your sleep is fragmented, delayed, or insufficient, those habits won't reach their full potential. You're trying to build on sand. Sleep is also how the nervous system resets. During REM sleep, when dreams are most vivid, the emotional circuits in the brain are reprocessed and desensitized. This allows us to wake up less reactive, more centered, and better able to navigate stress. It's not just about rest, it's about emotional resilience. The amygdala, a key brain region involved in fear and emotional memory, becomes hyperactive when sleep is compromised. That's why even small sleep debt can make you more irritable, more anxious, more prone to overreaction. But after a good night's sleep, the prefrontal cortex, a region responsible for rational thinking and self-regulation, regains control. That's why we often say sleep on it when faced with big decisions. The brain literally gains better access to insight and perspective after rest. Now, how you approach sleep matters just as much as how much of it you get. It's not only about duration, but timing, regularity, and quality. The circadian rhythm governs when sleep is most restorative. Going to bed and waking up at consistent times, especially aligning with natural light-dark cycles, this rhythm and enhances sleep depth. Shift that too often, and the system becomes confused. You might sleep 8 hours and still feel exhausted. That's not a time issue, it's a circadian mismatch. Regularity sends a strong signal to your body. It's safe, it's predictable, and recovery can happen fully. Light plays a key role here too. Just as morning light helps anchor your circadian rhythm, light at night can derail it. Bright, artificial lighting, especially from screens, can suppress melatonin and delay the onset of sleep. That's why minimizing screen exposure 1-2 hours before bed or using dim, warm lighting can dramatically improve sleep onset and depth. Darkness isn't just about comfort, it's a physiological trigger. It signals the pineal gland to release melatonin and tells every system in the body it's time to shift from action to restoration. Temperature is another crucial variable. Core body temperature naturally drops before and during sleep. Lowering the temperature in your room or taking a warm bath 90 minutes before bed can facilitate this drop and cue the brain towards sleep. The temperature signal is tightly linked to sleep architecture. It's not just preference, it's thermoregulated biology. From an aging standpoint, it's also essential to understand that sleep influences the very mechanisms of cellular lifespan. Telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of chromosomes, sensitive to stress and inflammation. Poor sleep increases both. Over time, shortened telomeres lead to cellular senescence, reduced regenerative capacity, and accelerated aging. But consistent high-quality sleep can slow this process. It's not about stopping time. It's about giving your biology the conditions it needs to repair, to renew, to remember what youth feels like. And this is where behavior comes into play. You can't force sleep, but you can create the conditions that allow it to emerge. Build a sleep ritual. Wind down intentionally. Dim the lights. Lower your voice. Step away from cognitive stimulation. Signal to your body, we're transitioning. This is sacred time, not just for escape, but for regeneration. Because when you treat sleep like a performance enhancer, like medicine, like the most critical part of your anti-aging rewards you, it shows up in your skin, in your energy, in your focus, in your memory. It's visible, it's visceral. You may not see what happens during those hours in the dark, but your brain and body are running a highly complex, finely tuned symphony of regeneration. The real anti-aging pill isn't a pill at all. It's what your body does when you give it the chance to completely shut off from the world, so it can finally get to work. Asterisk movement is the language your body speaks fluently. It's not just something we do to burn calories or build muscle. A fundamental input for the brain, a biological necessity for vitality, and one of the most reliable ways to slow down the aging process. You are designed to move. Every system in your body, your cardiovascular system, your musculoskeletal system, your endocrine system, and especially your nervous system, relies on regular, deliberate movement to stay functional and adaptive. When we become sedentary, the signal of youth gets quieter. When we move, that signal turns back on, and it doesn't take hours in the gym or intense athleticism to see the benefits. Even just 20 minutes of movement per day can initiate a cascade of physiological changes that ripple through the entire body. From a neuroscience perspective, this is about brain chemistry. Physical activity elevates levels of key neuromodulators, dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, all of which enhance mood, motivation, attention, and emotional resilience. But there's something even more important that gets activated, BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF is often referred to as miracle grow for your brain. It promotes the growth of new neurons, enhances synaptic plasticity, and protects existing neurons from age-related decline. The production of BDNF is heavily influenced by physical activity, particularly aerobic exercise, like walking, cycling, or swimming. When you move, your muscles contract and release a molecule called irisin, which crosses the blood-brain barrier and stimulates BDNF expression in the hippocampus, a brain region critical for memory, learning, and emotional regulation. This means that every time you walk, jog, stretch, or lift weights, you're not just helping your heart and muscles, you're actively rewiring your brain to be more youthful and resilient. Now, consider what happens when you don't move. Sedentary behavior causes insulin sensitivity to drop, inflammation to rise, and blood circulation to stagnate. Your metabolism slows down, your joints stiffen, your mood dampens, and worst of all, your brain receives fewer signals to adapt and renew. Without movement, your body begins to downregulate systems tied to growth and repair. It assumes you're no longer engaged with the environment, so it conserves energy by dialing down performance. And over time, this leads to what many associate with aging: reduced strength, slower cognition, lower mood, increased disease risk. But it's not inevitable. It's a choice, and it's reversible. In fact, some of the most compelling research shows that regular physical activity doesn't just maintain function, it can reverse some of the declines associated with aging. Studies on older adults who begin structured exercise programs show improvements in memory, attention, processing speed, and emotional regulation. Their brains become more metabolically efficient, their stress resilience increases, their inflammation markers decrease, and their sense of agency, the belief that they can still direct the course of their life, returns. That's one of the most powerful anti-aging effects of movement. It restores control. This connection between movement and mindset is something deeply embedded in our neurobiology. When we move through space, our brain interprets that movement as a signal of forward momentum. It associates physical locomotion with progress. This is why even a brisk walk can help resolve mental fog, reduce stress, or shift a bad mood. You are giving your brain a sensory experience that aligns with the feeling of moving forward. That's not a metaphor, that's physiology. And it's important to note that different types of movement trigger different adaptations. Aerobic activity, steady, rhythmic motion helps with cardiovascular health, fat metabolism, and neuroplasticity. Resistance training, using weights, resistance bands, or even body weights, stimulates muscle protein synthesis, increases bone density, and and boosts testosterone and growth hormone. Both are essential. Both communicate something powerful to your biology. We're still in the game. Muscle is not just for aesthetics. It's an endocrine organ. It releases myokine small proteins with anti-inflammatory, metabolic, and brain-supportive effects. Maintaining muscle mass is one of the most predictive variables of health span. In older adults, muscle mass correlates with better cognition, greater independence, and lower risk of mortality. Every rep, every contraction sends a signal to your cells: maintain integrity, stay adaptive, don't decay. It also affects mitochondrial function. Mitochondria are the energy factories of your cells, and they degrade with age. But exercise stimulates mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of new, healthy mitochondria. That means more energy, less fatigue, greater endurance, and slower aging at the cellular level. When you move regularly, your mitochondria become more efficient, and your whole system operates on a higher plane. You also engage your vestibular system, the inner ear mechanism, responsible for balance and spatial orientation. Every time you change posture, rotate, or move through space, this system is tightly linked to autonomic regulation and cognitive processing. When it's challenged, it strengthens. When ignored, it atrophies. Falling is a leading cause of injury in older adults. But falls aren't caused by weakness. They're caused by the underuse of balance systems. Just practicing dynamic movement patterns, like standing on one leg, walking on uneven surfaces, or doing simple rotations can significantly reduce fall risk and boost neural communication across brain regions. Now think about how this plays out over time. You move daily, you feel sharper, more grounded, more present. Your body holds itself differently. Your posture improves, your breath deepens, your joints become more fluid. You walk into rooms with confidence. You respond to stress with clarity. You sleep more deeply, and that loop feeds itself. More energy fuels more movement. More movement enhances more brain function, and that function brings more purpose. And there's also a social element. Movement often happens in connection with other people, with nature, with the environment. Whether it's a walk with a friend, a workout class, or even dancing alone in your living room, movement connects you to your body and the world around you. That connection is critical. Isolation is a major driver of cognitive decline. But when we move with others, mirror neurons activate, oxytocin is released, and social bonds deepen. Movement makes you biologically younger and emotionally more alive. Even your immune system responds. Exercise mobilizes immune cells, circulates lymph, and reduces chronic inflammation. It makes your internal defenses smarter and more responsive, especially when done consistently. Not too much, not too little, just the right dose. This concept known as hormesis is the idea that mild stressors provoke resilience. Exercise is one of the most potent hormetic stressors we have. It challenges the body in a controlled way, and the body responds by getting stronger, faster, sharper. That's not punishment, that's adaptation. And this isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. Movement, even in small doses, signals your body that you're alive, that you're engaged, that your systems still matter. That matters more than how fast, how far, or how heavy. The body listens more to patterns than intensity. And when the pattern is movement, the message is youth. The message is vitality. The message is keep building. So don't think of movement as a workout. Think of it as a conversation with your biology. One where you remind your body every day that it's worth staying strong for, that is still needed, still capable, still evolving. That kind of message, repeated over time, doesn't just maintain youth, it regenerates it. Asterisk, for most of human history, food was not available around the clock. We ate when we hunted, when we gathered, when it was safe. Our biology evolved in sync with scarcity, with rhythm, with periods of eating followed by periods of fasting. And yet, in the modern world, we've created an environment where food is not just available, it's constant. We graze from the moment we wake until the moment we sleep. The result isn't just weight gain. It's a fundamental misalignment of our metabolic rhythm, our cellular repair systems, and ultimately, our aging process. The human body is incredibly adaptive, but it's also incredibly sensitive to timing. Every cell operates on a clock. Every organ has a rhythm. When we eat, we initiate a cascade of biological responses. Insulin rises, glucose is processed, digestion takes priority. But when we eat continuously throughout the day, as late into the evening, we never give our system the break it needs to shift from energy acquisition to repair. That shift is not optional, it's critical, and it's triggered by fasting. Intermittent fasting, or time-restricted feeding, is not about starvation. It's not about extremes. It's about restoring a rhythm that our biology understands and thrives within. When we eat within a compressed window, say 8 to 10 hours during the day, we allow for a longer fasting period in the evening and overnight. That fasting period is when autophagy gets turned on. Autophagy is the body's internal recycling system. Damaged cells, broken proteins, dysfunctional mitochondrial, the debris that accumulates from simply being AVAR targeted, broken down, and cleared. It's one of the most important anti-aging processes we have access to, and it doesn't require supplements or pharmaceuticals. It just requires that we stop eating for a while. Now, here's where it gets really interesting from a neuroscience perspective. The brain benefits immensely from fasting. When we fast, levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, rise, increasing neuroplasticity and enhancing the survival of existing neurons. BDNF is essential for learning, memory, and resilience. This is likely an evolutionary adaptation. In times of food scarcity, our ancestors needed to become more alert, more focused, more strategic to locate food. The brain responded by ramping up cognitive function. That mechanism still exists. When we fast, the brain doesn't slow down, it sharpens. Fasting also improves insulin sensitivity, a marker that declines significantly with age, and is tightly linked to almost every age-related disease, from Alzheimer's to cardiovascular dysfunction. When we give the pancreas and liver a break from constant glucose processing, we restore their sensitivity. We lower inflammation. We improve mitochondrial function. And mitochondria, the energy powerhouses of our cells, are especially sensitive to metabolic stress. A break in feeding triggers mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of new mitochondria, which translates into more efficient energy use, reduced oxidative stress, and improved cellular performance. There's also a direct impact on hormonal balance. Growth hormone levels increase during fasting periods, particularly at night. This hormone is crucial not only for muscle repair and fat metabolism, but also for maintaining skin elasticity, bone density, and even mood. It declines naturally with age, but fasting helps maintain its rhythmic peaks. Testosterone and estrogen, both critical for energy, mood, and and cognitive sharpness also benefit from improved insulin regulation and reduced systemic inflammation, both of which are supported by time-restricted eating. But one of the most profound effects of compressing your eating window is psychological. When you start to eat with intention, when you create boundaries around food, your relationship with nourishment transforms. Food becomes fuel again, not distraction, not comfort, not noise. You start to sense real hunger. You feel when your body wants nutrients, not just when your mind wants stimulation. That reconnection with hunger cues is subtle but powerful. It puts you back in touch with your biology, with your intuition, with your self-regulation systems, and that kind of alignment is a marker of youthfulness. It's when the mind and body are in sync. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone needs to follow the same protocol. Some thrive on a 16 to 8 fasting schedule. Others benefit from 12-12. What matters most is the consistency. The brain and body don't just respond to what we do, they respond to when we do it. When your feeding window is consistent, your circadian clocks synchronize. Your liver, your gut, your pancreas, even your microbiome, they all start working. In harmony, hormones peak and dip at the right times. Energy feels stable. Cravings drop. Sleep deepens. That's not a placebo. That's circadian biology functioning properly. Late-night eating is particularly damaging, not just for digestion, but for sleep, metabolic function, and cellular health. When you eat late, especially carbohydrate-rich meals, you blunt melatonin release, you impair deep sleep, and you elevate blood glucose throughout the night. That disrupts fat metabolism, compromises recovery, and increases the risk of insulin resistance. In short, your body is being asked to process and repair at the same time, and it can't do both well. One suffers, and over time, that suffering accumulates. Fasting also enhances ketone production, especially after 12 to 16 hours of not eating. Ketones are an alternative fuel source that are not only efficient but neuroprotective. They reduce oxidative stress in neurons, improve mitochondrial efficiency, and may play a role in protecting against neurodegeneration. There's a clarity that comes when the body starts running on ketones. It's a quiet energy, a stable kind of alertness. People often describe it as feeling lighter, not in a physical sense, but cognitively less noise, less drag, more fluid thought. It's important to remember that fasting is not just about subtraction. It's about signaling. You're not depriving your body. You're giving it space to activate ancient mechanisms of repair. You're telling your cells, pause, reset, clean. You're reintroducing metabolic flexibility, the ability to shift between fuel sources efficiently. That's a lost art in a society built on constant consumption. And yet, it's one of the most vital levers we have for slowing down biological aging. This doesn't require extreme willpower. It requires intention. You start by delaying your first meal by an hour. Then you stop eating 2 hours earlier in the evening. You begin to shrink the window slowly. And what you'll notice is that hunger shifts, energy stabilizes, the urge to snack fades, and you start to reclaim time not just from the act of eating, but from the mental energy it takes to constantly think about food. That liberation creates space for focus, for creativity, for presence. And this carries forward into how you age. People who fast regularly have lower levels of C-reactive protein, lower fasting insulin, lower blood pressure. They have improved lipid profiles, healthier body composition, and more robust immune function. These are not just numbers. They are expressions of a system that's working in coherence. That coherence is youth, its adaptability, its resilience. So when you think about longevity, when you think about energy, clarity, and health, not just now, but 10, 20, 30 years from now, think about the power of boundaries. Think about the intelligence of your own biology waiting to be reactivated through rhythm. Because the act of not eating is not passive. It is deeply active. It is one of the most potent forms of self-care you can engage in. And it begins simply by giving your body the time it needs to do what it's always known how to do: repair, regenerate, and renew. Here's the truth. Aging is inevitable, but how we age is malleable. It's not a slow, passive decline unless we allow it to be. In fact, the science shows us something far more empowering. Your brain, your body, your biology, all of it, is listening to what you do every single day. And that means you're not stuck. You're not doomed by genetics. You're not at the mercy of a number on your birth certificate. You are participating in your aging process, whether you realize it or not. The beautiful part is that the tools are already within your reach. Morning sunlight, quality sleep, daily movement, time-restricted eating. These aren't exotic interventions. They're basic, powerful inputs your body understands deeply, biologically. They are the rhythms and cues that shaped human life for thousands of years before modern distractions pulled us out of sync. When you start aligning with those rhythms again, when you reclaim sleep as sacred, treat movement as medicine, see fasting not as deprivation, but as restoration, you activate the systems that keep you sharp, stable, and strong. You engage your nervous system in a dialogue that says, let's keep going, let's keep building. And your biology responds, because it's always been wired for growth, for resilience, for adaptation. The effects compound. You sleep better, so you think clearer. You move more, so you feel more alive. You eat with intention, and your energy stabilizes. You get morning light, and your hormones align. Small choices, repeated with consistencies, send powerful signals. And those signals shape your reality. This isn't about perfection. It's not about overhauling your life overnight. It's about one aligned action at a time. That's how you build youth from the inside out, not chasing it, but earning it, sustaining it. And perhaps most importantly, it's not just about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years. Vitality, clarity, drive, presence. You are not your past habits. You are your next choice. And the science is clear. Your biology is listening. Your brain is plastic. Your cells are adaptable. Your systems are waiting for instruction. So instruct them intelligently, intentionally, consistently. Because you are not just aging, you are evolving. And every day is an invitation to do it better.